For those of you who don't know, we are literally live by a few seconds from the African bushveld to wherever you are. Who happens to be my favorite in the area. I couldn't help myself but come immediately and start with him. Let's have a quick look at him. So for those of you who weren't with us this morning, we got a report that Kunyuma had made a kill last night. So first thing this morning, Steph went out in search of where the kill was, and we're going to have a quick look at it now. So there's a steenbok in the tree. I'm not sure whether it's a male or female yet. I haven't been able to see around the other side, and we don't want to drive around just to see what sex the kill is. We might disturb the leopard where he's lying at the moment. That's one of the best things about being able to stay in an area for a prolonged time, is that you actually get to follow the leopards quite regularly and get to know them as individuals. He's got a particularly interesting personality. He's slightly deranged and mad in the head, and that's probably why I like him so much. Also a very, very successful hunter. Very few clouds in the sky, hot and dry. So he's not going to move too much. So we decided we'd have a quick look here at the starter drive. We're definitely going to come back here when it gets cooler, and hopefully he heads up into the tree and starts feeding. So other news today from Steph is that there was some elephant and buffalo around Buffelshoek Dam. It's quite hot, so hopefully the ellies will be drinking. And there was also female leopard tracks in that area. So we're going to go see if we can follow up in that area while Mr. Kunyuma sleeps off his steenbok. And hopefully when we come back later in the afternoon when it's cooler, he might head up the tree, start feeding. And there's also a very good chance Gowrie Dam isn't too far from here, and he might head down that way for a drink when it's a bit cooler. But it's always fantastic to be able to start a drive with a leopard, particularly for me, this leopard. We shall be seeing you later. Not even a hiss. Isn't that a bit strange? You see, he hisses at us quite frequently, and but generally from his body language, even while he's hissing, his tail isn't flashing around, and that it's sort of a strange characteristic that he's of that particular leopard. There. our live safaris. We are very interactive, and we encourage you guys to send us questions. Email address, which is questions@wildearth.tv, or you can just use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So not only do we traverse on Djuma private game reserve, we also head onto the neighbouring property, Arathusa, depending on what game viewing is happening. This particular part of Southern Africa has phenomenal game viewing, specifically the cats, and is world famous for its leopards. Welcome back, guys. Sorry, I just went through quite a steep dip there. Sometimes with being able to broadcast live from the bush, we do face little challenges in going through low-lying areas. But fortunately, there's very few areas, so we try to move through A small group of kudu antelope, and there's two youngsters who seem to be quite sprightly running around. I'm just going to reverse a little bit. Pick up every little sound around them. Oh, there's a bull coming in front of us, Andrew. One of the bigger antelopes that occurs here at Djuma. So what he was doing there was scratching his horns. I was just trying to see if we could get a view of him scratching his ears. But unfortunately, just the wrong side of the bush this afternoon. Come back behind us. We've still got when there's a female estrus. So they will quite happily coexist in bachelor groups, home ranges that they wander in. And most of your spiral horned antelope that occur here, which are the kudu's part of the family, like Inyala and bushbuck, have a very similar sort of setup. None of them are particularly. There's a young male there as well. So I was saying earlier, just those ears really stick out, and they're designed to pick up the tiniest sounds in the bush. So I want you guys at home to try something. You might feel a little bit ridiculous when you do it, but it'll just give you an idea of how important a kudu's hearing it is, and having those huge radar-like ears helps to pick up all the sounds. So if you just take your hands and you place them behind your ears and you stick out like that, and you'll see how much more you'll be able to hear. It really is incredible. But you do look a bit silly when you do it. Oh, my earpiece has fallen out. There's a young female there. A very graceful looking antelope. There's another couple of youngsters. Very alert. You also see how they move their ears to face different directions constantly. So the same as if they were looking in different directions, they use their ears to scan different directions. Yeah, well, let them continue feeding as they head off into the... See if there's anything going to quench. For me, tracking is probably one of my most enjoyable things to do in the bush. And that's probably why I like the dry season so much. It does make it a little easier. And as it gets drier and drier, you're able to see tracks specifically of your predators much more easily. Also your visibility as the grass starts flattening and drying out becomes greater. Good afternoon, Sibusiso. Ninjani mfowethu. Welcome on drive with us this afternoon. Sibusiso would like to know whether we find cheetah on Djuma. The answer is yes, Sibusiso, we do. Actually, I think Scott and Mark, two of the other presenters, were lucky enough to actually see a male cheetah while I was on leave. There are cheetah at Djuma and the rest of the Sabi town. However, their densities are not that high due to the very high density of sort of lions and hyenas and leopards. And out of all the large predators, cheetahs are sort of at the bottom of the food chain, so to speak. And there will leopards and lions. So for those of you who have just joined us, we're slowly making our way towards Buffelshoek Dam, and because it's quite hot at the moment, there's a chance that we might find elephants or almost, I'm pretty sure we might find some buffalo around there that have gone down towards to have a drink. That general direction. So we're just going to go follow up in that area, see what we can find. And then later in the day we're going to head back towards that young male leopard we saw right at the beginning, who's got a kill up in the tree, and it's very hot, so he's lying at the base of the tree sort of digesting and panting and being... When we go back, he might climb up the tree and start feeding again. let's have a look at this tree next to us quickly here. So I know some of our regular gotta be careful getting a sample for you guys of this tree. Okay, see, very, very sharp little hooked thorns, very round leaflets, and a big clue, and one of the diagnostic features that features in this tree's name. You look on this branch here, you see? Andrew?
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. There's very distinct protrusions coming out of the branch, which helps to identify it. So let's see who's going to be the first in with the name of this tree. And for those of you new, you can send your answers for that to questions@WildEarthTV. Or be sure, if you're on Twitter, just use the hashtag Safari Live. That is correct. It is a knobthorn. Well done. I thought I'd have a little bit more time. You guys are getting too good, too quick at IDing trees. No, I'm copying you very badly at the moment. Just let me get to a bit higher ground. Try again.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working
We're probably a couple of 100 meters away, so we'll start checking quite carefully for elephants in case they have drunk already and they've started feeding away from the dam. So we've just arrived at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm just moving around to the western side so we don't stare straight into the sun. Oh, we've got some kudu. More kudu. Just leaving the waterhole. Just come down for a drink. What else? No elephants, unfortunately. Grey heron. We got some fork-tailed drongers. So they do it again. That are drinking and sort of actually going into the water to try to cool down. They should do it again. They normally do it a couple of times when they start. There we go. So they're drinking at the same time. They're also dropping their bodies in the water to cool themselves down. And in the breeze, that would be quite a nice feeling. So they get a little bit damp and then a fork-tailed dronger's version of swimming. Okay, well, I'm just looking from the tracks. It looks like the elephants were here earlier. If you shine down on the edge of the water, on the left there, please, Adam. So do just head back up onto the road and see if we can figure out which way they were going. 3 out of 5. So could you try to keep your messages short, because the breakup gets bad the longer you speak. But I did copy that. So guys, apparently there's a bit of worry out there about us going to be ending. Don't worry, we're not ending. We will continue for as long as possible. We really do love being able to and be able to show you a place that we love so much and are so passionate about. It's an absolute privilege for us to be able to share it with you. So it doesn't look like the Ellies went this way, so what we'll do is we're going to loop around. It's heading in this general direction, so it's quite possible that she might have made her way for a drink during the day sometime. So we're going to go have a look on the eastern side of Buffelshoek Dam, see if we can find any tracks or sign, or even if we're really lucky, a spotty cat. Standing by. Good afternoon, Gail. Welcome and drive with us this afternoon. Gail would like to know, do the animals in the bush ever relax, or they're constantly on alert for predators? Unfortunately, Gail, the majority of the time they are on alert, but they do relax to a certain degree. So say during the heat of the day, they know there's a lot less likely chance that lions and leopards are moving around, so they will sort of maybe snooze but not sleep. But the bush is definitely a place for the quick and the dead, because the moment you stop paying attention is the day that a predator does get you. Hiding behind a round leaf teak. You see?
Yeah. Brian's favorite.
It's Pumbaa. Might run out into the open. No, opposite direction. For those of you who didn't have a good look at the knobs on a knobthorn earlier, here's a very nice example of knobs on a knobthorn. Go ahead. Good afternoon, Karen from Oregon. Welcome on Drive with us this afternoon. Karen would like to know if we've had any. I think a couple of days ago Steph went and it was very active. I haven't yet, but I did hear that they were all doing well last I heard. We will try and maybe go have a look when it's cooler. Unfortunately at the moment with this heat, it's very likely that most of the hyenas will be away from the den, sleeping in the shade, and the youngsters will actually be inside the den, taking advantage of the cool. Here's another tree for you guys. Very, very soft. Really, really soft. To give you a clue about its name, there's a special species of insect that does something very special to it during the dry season, and that's how it gets its name. But also it's got a few little nicknames, and that's quite a lot that got to do with it, how soft it is. Also I think it'll work quite well as a fly whisk, so I'm gonna hang on to this one for a while. So please remember to send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV, or if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag SafariLive. For those of you who I'm looking for the tracks specifically of the predators, so lion, leopard, wild dog, or cheetah. I'm looking very carefully and going very slowly on this road. Strong likelihood she might have come out into this area and gone down to the dam for a drink. Go ahead. Last station, please go again. Good afternoon, Curious One on Twitter. Curious One on Twitter would like to know. Very good question. I'm not entirely 100% sure. They do have a single fawn coming out of them, so they could be for protection. But if you give me 2 ticks, I'm just going to find a spot in the shade here, and I'll whip out one of my books and see if we can figure that out. Listen when you're in the bush. So reading the bush is a multifaceted thing. You can't only use your eyes, you need to be able to use your ears, your smell. Well, let's have a look what it says. Sorry, let me just do it. 1 second, we're just going to look here quickly. There we can see the knob that's got a thorn on it. There we go. The younger plants are very heavily adorned with those knobs that are quite hard. Different herbivores from feeding off it while it's young, and once it gets older and is out of danger as much, it's got a chance to. It doesn't need so many knobs to protect itself because it's a big enough tree. Can go ahead. So well done, Darren and Dano, for getting it right. It is a weeping wattle, is this branch that I've been using to swatch myself. Last drive when we did about it. What is one of its slightly more amusing nicknames? And remember to send your answers to questions@WildEarthTV, or just use the hashtag SafariLive if you're on Twitter. So we'll go talk a little bit about it now quickly. So the reason it's got the name weeping wattle is it's an event in the dry season, and just very often very late in the dry season, in certain parts of Africa, there's a thing called a spittle bug. Off to the stems, and they're very small, and sometimes you can have hundreds of 50 or 60 on each little sort of little branchlet. And what they do is they eat the sap but drink it in at such an incredible speed. They excrete it at almost double the speed that they can drink it in little drops, that it's almost pure water. So in an area that's completely dry and barren, all of a sudden under the weeping wattle, so you can see all the drips like it's been raining under that tree, and you can feel the droplets if you're underneath it. So that's where it gets the name weeping wattle. Let's see if it's got oh, it's a very here we go. It's got some medicinal uses. The bark is used when made into a sort of a concoction with water and heated. It's drunk to help with internal parasites like tapeworms and flukes. Also used is mashed up and boiled and used as a sort of a dressing for wounds. And very important if you live in Africa, you got to be careful of the black magic, the tagati as it's called here, the witch doctors. If you sprinkle the leaves of a weeping wattle around your house, a body wash made from parts of this plant is said to cure insanity. Interesting. Very interesting. So sitting like this quietly gives us a chance to read the bush and to listen to what's happening. The bush is like a constantly updating bush newspaper. So it's got it's almost like, rather than the bush, it's almost like I'm trying to think, like an online paper that as soon as anything happens, you update by little things, a squirrel alarm calling, or elephant breaking a branch. So it's something that if you're in tune to, you can constantly hear what's going on and read what's happening around you. Go ahead. So go again with the name. Well done, Winland. Yes, it is called, sometimes referred to quite often. When a leopard has come here, they have drunk in this little corner. So I just want to have a sneaky look to see. Not today, unfortunately. But yes. But the one interesting thing about it is, and we're gonna have a look at another tree a little bit later, and that tree can be confused quite easily with the toilet paper tree, which is very nice and soft. Yeah, I'm not reading you well enough. So guys, so a lot of you guys came through. Would love to be able to say everyone's name, but unfortunately okay, so she has popped out here during the day, that female leopard. Let's see if I can show you her tracks. See that? Yes. So there we go. I'm just going to just to confuse me, there looks like a track going in the opposite direction as well. Okay, so just give me a second here, folks. Just want to have a look very carefully so I don't make any mistakes here. don't think these tracks are from today. I think they maybe from a day or two ago, and I'll show you why. So there's two sets of tracks down towards the dam, which is there. There's one going that way, away from the dam. It has been a bit windy earlier today, so that could explain why the edges are a bit rough, but the tracks going towards the dam are definitely more fresh in my opinion. The edges are sharper, and one of the bigger giveaways is, it's going to be a bit difficult to see here. I don't know if you can see it nicely there, that track there. You see that distinct line through it? Can you see it?
Yep.
So what that is an antline track. So an antline's been moving, and they don't move particularly fast. So, and they generally move during the night. So this is at least a day old. So that's one way that you can sort of tell that it's not from today or right now. Whether these look quite a lot, these ones here look a lot more fresh. It's there, and they're heading down towards the dam. Just checking all these roads here carefully, and the tracks do look like they're from quite a lot earlier in the day, so there's quite a few now. And specifically this female leopard, or the dominant female leopard in this area, is very well known to most of our regular viewers, and her name is Karula, and she has got a habit which from a tracking point of view makes her quite difficult to find sometimes, because most leopards will tend to lie down during the heat of the day, whereas she seems to walk and hunt during the heat of the day. So where you find her or you have tracks for her, there's a very strong possibility she's nowhere near there in the afternoon. Where's my fly swatter? Standing by. Good afternoon, Felix. Felix, it's actually quite a big misconception that leopards sleep in trees. The majority of the time they will actually sleep and rest on the ground. and will go up into a tree if chased by hyenas or lions, or any other predator for that matter, like wild dogs. In sometimes, especially sort of in January, February, it's really hot, sort of 40 degrees Celsius. They will go up and sleep in the trees because there's then they do sleep in trees. But lions, on the other hand, just remember there's no steadfast rule with animals. We wrote the guidebooks, but they didn't read them, and they are quite happy to change their mind whenever they want. So just quickly, just not often you get a really good view of this bird. Up, Andrew, up on the left hand side, up, right, down, down, across, go wide, right side, down. See there? You got, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, Aubrey. Kunyuma still in the same position. No stations there. I'd like to make my way there back later. Following up on more fuzzy and tracks around Bulvershoek Dam. Okay, copy. Thanks. No problem, Wolves. So, as I was saying, there's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rules. And in certain parts of Africa, lions are very well known for sleeping in trees, specifically where it's hot. Heavy. So it's quite difficult for them to haul that bulk up a tree. And then also, being so big, it's quite difficult for them to find a comfortable place to rest. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Jock from Ohio. Jock would like to know whether leopards track humans. Places that they have been known to turn to man-eaters, but as a general rule, I would say sometimes they do, but more from a curiosity point of view. I've definitely been tracked by leopards while walking through the bush here in the Sabi Sands, but it's generally a sub-adult or a youngster, and it's more from a curiosity than rather than that sort of I want to eat you point of view. But in India, there have been outbreaks that have been attributed to leopards that run into a couple of hundred people eaten by leopards, and also there have been some outbreaks in East Africa with leopards. Most of those were quite a long time ago. Natural food sources, so they turn to things like domestic animals, dogs, children. Very nice. A little pair of steenbok. Yeah. I'll just keep still. So there's a pair of steenbok. Quite interesting. a monogamous antelope. Oh, there they go. Yeah. Finished with Jock's question there. So Jock, yeah, it can happen, but it is outside of the norm. So what we saw there was a pair of steenbok. They are a monogamous antelope. Let me just find them quickly in the book. A defense mechanism against predator. Because they're so small and because they are monogamous and they do live in a really small territory of around 2 hectares. Oh no, have I got lost? Ready. I've lost it. I thought I had the page. There we go. I'm just double checking their range of their habitat or their territory. One second, there we go. Around 2 hectares. One of the other more interesting things about them is that they are one of the few antelopes that bury their own feces, and they do this because they live in such small territories. It helps them to hide from their presence from predators. Their biggest defense mechanism against predators is where they get their name. A steen in Afrikaans is a brick. So their main defense is when a leopard or something gets very close to them, is to try keep as still as possible. So that's where they got their name from. So they'll wait almost to the last second before running. So a brick antelope, a steenbok. And I've actually seen wild dog sniffing within 30 centimeters of a steenbok that just sort of closed eyes and put its head down and kept dead still. And the wild dog ran past and carried on. They could smell that there was a steenbok around there, but because it didn't move, it didn't trigger that sort of predatory instinct to chase. So very, very interesting little antelope. They also do not need to drink. They will when they have the opportunity to, but they are not. They get enough water from a dew and also from the plants that they feed off. So the temperature is starting to drop a little bit, which means we go ahead. Well done, Joanne. You got that bird species we had a fleeting glimpse of just now. It was a black crowned chagra. Very well done, Joanne. You guys are getting good. I'm gonna have to start giving you LBJs. And for those of you who don't know what LBJs are, it's little brown jobs, sort of very small, nondescript cisticolas and warblers that you can pretty much only identify. They can be very difficult to identify. You guys are getting so good, I might even start throwing a few cisticolas your way. I really do love it as it starts cooling down. The bush seems to take on another atmosphere. Standing by. Good afternoon, Ramon from the Netherlands. Ramon says we see so many big animals on these live safari drives. Why don't we see more frogs and snakes? Well, Ramon, the reason we don't see as many frogs is, well, lots of things. Well, actually, quite strangely, a lot of snakes eat frogs. It's one of their favorite foods. But a lot of the smaller things that do get eaten by a lot of things, like your frogs, will actually be hiding, and quite difficult to find, especially from a vehicle. You actually have to get out and walk. And what happens with the snakes, they will feel the vibrations of the vehicle as we're driving towards them, and they'll try to get out of our ways. If you want to fight with people or cars, especially a car, it's a big scary thing. So they will try to avoid us at all costs. But I really have a special love for frogs, and during the wet season, I've been known to be found in a pair of frogs to identify. And one of my favorite frogs that we see quite often here in the Lowveld, and specifically when we're on soils like this, and it'll be after a good rain or an alate emergence, so a whole bunch of flying ants coming out of a termite mound. I'm sure I got my frog book here. I do. It's called a bushveld rain frog. Let me find a picture of him quickly. I don't want to spoil it by saying any more without you being able to see what he looks like. There we go. I think they're incredibly cute, the rain frogs. To me, he looks like a grumpy old man. He's got these very short, stubby little legs. They're not very big. They're probably about, a big one probably about that big, so about a quarter of the size of the picture on the burrow, and they live under the ground for the majority of the year, and they come out after the rains and when there's been sort of explosions of insects. But they do have a funny look, and they look like such unhappy, grumpy old men. And these short, stubby legs, looks like he's been a little fat thing. What's quite interesting, there is a picture in this book, maybe not of a bush, because they've got that very funny shaped body. Mating's quite difficult because frogs generally need to clasp to mate. So as the female releases her eggs, the male releases his sperm onto the eggs and fertilizing. But now these guys are so fat and round, they can't grab. So it's very difficult for them to mate. So they've actually developed a very, very unique system to help ensure the eggs get fertilized. Just want to see if I know there's a picture of it in here. What is the number? 19. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, pretty. I know I've seen the picture of it somewhere. Sure, maybe it's in my other frog book that's not with me. Let me just keep checking. Because it is very interesting. There we go. The males are also much, much smaller. This is not the same, which is my favorite frog. This is one that occurs up, but it's got the picture. So you see, if the female is walking around to its body, and sometimes the females have to then secrete another substance that will release them from that position. But sometimes it looks like the females forget, and they walk around with the guy sort of stuck on top. You can't jump off. So it is a very interesting adaptation for ensuring that the eggs get fertilized, and that's the whole family of rain frogs do that. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Frogs are wonderful, and I'd love to spend more time with them. It's just a bit difficult while you're in a vehicle. You actually need to be on foot and sort of fiddling around on the edge of pans. And as we come into dry season, a lot of them will go into hibernation. Especially around the permanent water sources, specifically rivers that flow in that. But in general, we won't see very many frogs now as we head into the drier, colder months. Hello, hello. Some female leopard tracks. Yeah, definitely from today. Nice and crisp. There you go. Oh, well, let's definitely have a look at these guys. It's the right time of the day that we might be lucky and the leopards might be moving. These are very fresh tracks. And your eyes ready?
Yep.
Go ahead. Good afternoon, Valerie. Valerie would like generally the frogs you shouldn't touch are very brightly colored. Although we are very lucky in this area, there's no frog that you shouldn't really touch. But there is one that if you put it in your mouth you might get quite sick. And that is also a very pretty frog. There he is. That's the one, and as I said, very dark or bright colors is one of the ways that a lot of animals tell you, and insects tell you, that they're noxious. That is a oh, excuse me, banded rubber frog. So that's the only one that is supposed to be able, if you have a sort of cut on your skin or whatnot, and you pick it up, the secretion from his skin is noxious and might make you quite ill. Let me just have spotted. Here we go. I'll just have a quick check on what it says about the. So I mean, but I mean, you have to be very unlucky. Maybe some people have allergies to it. The one nice thing about it is that it does have a very cool call, which you hear it a lot during the summer months and the wet season here, and it goes. Before I start getting too embarrassed. And that's enough. Let's get back to tracking leopards. Well, it looks like that female's gone off the road. We're just going to check a little bit further along. Sometimes they'll go off, scent, mark a bush, then come back. Just have a quick look. And there's a quick look up towards our boundary, and then I'll come back. Go ahead. Good afternoon, Chris. Welcome on Drive with us. Chris would like to know, how can I tell that it's a female leopard just from the tracks? Well, Chris, it's the size. Generally within, quite often, sometimes within under a year, a female leopard that's got male cubs, those cubs will have definitely bigger feet and be bigger than her physically. So we judge from the size of the tracks. That's generally how we tell the difference between male and female tracks. So there's quite a few little roads and bigger roads in this area. What we're doing is just zigzagging through to see if the tracks come out on any of these roads. So it doesn't look like any tracks have come out here, so the next road we're going to head back. Oh guys, there's one of my favorite birds. It's not something you see very often, but they are around. But they're incredibly beautiful bird. Incredibly beautiful bird. It's called a Shelley's Franklin, and they're normally very, very skittish and they hide. Andrew and I actually had a very brief view in this area of one not that long ago, and there's another one coming out onto the road. Relaxed out in the open, so we're just going to sit quietly, and maybe the other one will come out as well, and you can see the difference. Just go in closely there. I think I made a boo-boo.
I'm as close as I can go.
That looks like a male Coqui Franklin, sorry, but I could have sworn the other one I saw looked like a Shelley's. Let's have it. Yeah, that's definitely a male Coqui Franklin. Also another one of those Franklins that you don't see that often. So if you guys managed to get a screenshot of the first one that was just managed to have a quick look there, see which Franklin that was, but just that there were only two of them. I think I'm going to lean towards Coqui. We're going to try move a little bit further forward. But you see, they move very slowly. One of their defense mechanisms is right next to me. So just try not move too fast. That's the female is the one we're going to look at, or the other one. It's running off. There's a couple of them in here. See, rather than burst and take off, rather sort of scurry away to sort of not give away their presence. That was very close to a whoopsie for me there. So I got quite excited because we saw Shelley's in. So there's, I'm pretty sure it's a Coqui Franklin there. There's the male. So let me go a bit further away for you there, Andrew. And there's the female. So what happened is I just saw that white throat, and I was like, oh, Shelley's. But then when you looked a bit closer, I was like, hang on, it's not really a Shelley's. But Shelley's has got a great call. Because normally you hear them calling a lot, but you don't see them. And they go. And now my grandfather taught me how to remember that. He says they're saying, to drink a beer, to drink a beer, to drink a beer, to drink a beer. Anyway, welcome on drive. Lynn would like to know what birds we can expect to see in the winter months. Well, Lynn, quite a big variety. Most of our bird species are resident and the migrants are in the minority. So we'll see 4 different species of francolin. And one of the nice things is when it's so thick in summer we don't really see them too often. And I'm sure we'll have snake eagles around, the bateliers will still be around, vultures, your cisticolas or cisticolas, palaces, crombecs, a lot in other words. But the ones we're probably going to see quite a lot on game drive, starlings, helmet shrikes, what else do we, heron, and then obviously lapwings, crowned, blacksmith and lesser black-winged. And what else can I think of offhand at the moment? Oxpeckers! Hornbills, thank you Andrew. The most obvious one that we probably see the most of every day, and I completely forget it. Standing by. Well done, Suzanne. Coqui francolin. Just that initial white flash of the throat to the female coqui had me foxed there for a second. As soon as that little boy came out onto the road, I knew. I was like, whoops, the daisies. Just in case there's anyone who's joined us late or is new, my name's Brent and we're taking you on a live game drive in the Sabi Sands of South Africa, specifically between Djuma and Arathusa private game reserves, and we're literally bar a few seconds live in Africa to wherever you are in the world. It's incredible that we are able to share our passion for our home with all of you wonderful people throughout the world who have an interest in nature. Standing by. Just below Ingus Kaya and a few Dagger boys down. Negative, I haven't been down to the area on Trials or whatnot yet, so I haven't seen any sign yet this afternoon. I'm heading that way, I'll have a look, and if anything I'll let you know. Well, it seems to be a day for kudus today. I mean, often you can go a couple of days without seeing. You can see them browsing. One of the reasons their ears are so big, which we spoke about earlier, is because they are quite often in very thick bush with limited visibility. Very graceful antelope. She manages to keep a bit calmer than me when I have flies all over my face. She at least doesn't try to swat herself. Oh well, leave them be and continue on our merry way. Afternoon F, I'm not sure about the updates from Buffelshoek. I wasn't copying very clearly, but for viewers, Kunyuma is still on a Steenbok Bamba, same position, just to the north of Engliskaya. Oh, there we go. Well spot. So, a smaller cousin of the kudu we just. You see the little boy, tiny little hordes starting to stick out, and you can just see that the coat starting to darken. And Nyala are quite interesting because they've got quite a very big sexual dimorphism between the male and female, which is not very common in antelopes, where the male looks very different from the female. I'm not talking about sort of their body shape or whatnot, but their coloration is very, very different. See if I can find a picture of a male for you. Or hopefully even better, just now we'll find a male.
You said you were going to find a fly repellent.
No, they're not too bad today. There we go. That's nearly there. Sorry, folks. Or not. Maybe I should stop trying to guess and just. So they actually don't even show the female Nyala in the book. But there's the male Nyala. So he's completely different colors. A chocolate brown. They do have orange socks, so to speak. But we'll try to find one for you and then we can have a look properly. And hopefully we can even find a male and a female next to each other. Standing by.